안녕하세요, Cloud입니다. Hey guys, Cloud here. Welcome back to another lesson recap. In this lesson, we'll look at how some nouns are turned into adjectives. Alright, let's get into it. This lesson is divided into two parts. Part 1, 촉, 촉으로, and 촉이다. We're going to talk about all three, but let's look at each one individually and then we can compare them against each other. Let's start with 촉. When 촉 is attached to a noun, you get the meaning of relating to. So, for example, 역사, history, becomes 역사적, historical, or related to history. 경제, which means economy, becomes 경제적, which means economic. Now, let's look at 촉으로. Basically what it does is it adds like an ly at the end. So, 역사, history, historical, 역사적, and then 역사적으로, historically. So you added that little ly at the end. Same thing with science, 과학, 과학적, scientifical, and then scientifically, 과학적으로. Last but not least, 촉이다. 촉이다 is the adjective form of 촉, so 과학적, which is scientific. 과학적이다 would also mean scientific, but it's used differently, or it depends on how you use it, basically. Let's compare 촉으로 and 촉이다 because those are the most commonly used ones. So let's look at these two sentences. 우리는 그 문제를 과학적으로 풀었다. We solved that problem scientifically versus 우리는 과학적인 문제를 풀었다. We solved a scientific problem. Hopefully that clarifies a little bit. Now let's compare 촉 and 촉이다. And let's look at these two sentences. Now, these two sentences have the same translation, but I would say that the second one with the 촉이다 or 촉인 is the more natural. Alright, now let's look at Surupta. Surupta is similar to 촉, where it changes a noun to an adjective, but they don't act on the same word. So you probably never hear 역사 Surupta instead of 역사 촉이다. But let's look at some words that are natural to be used with Surupta, and let's break them down. So you have 자연, which is nature, and 자연스럽다, which is natural. For example, you could have a sentence that says 저도 자연을 좋아해요. And 지금 자연스럽지 않았어. So the first one would mean I also like nature, and the second one is wasn't that natural just now? That's pretty straightforward. The next example is where things get a bit harder though. What if the word in question is used differently than before? So let's look at 만족, which is satisfaction. 만족하다, which is to be satisfied, and 만족스럽다, which is satisfactory, basically. Now let's take a look at this example. 저는 만족스러웠어요. By the definition we just saw, this should mean I was satisfactory, because we said 만족스럽다 is satisfactory. But what it really means is I was satisfied. Okay, well, what about this sentence? 저는 만족했어요. According to what we said earlier, this should mean I was satisfied. So, which one is it? Well, whichever one you said was the answer, you're kinda right. Technically, to say I was satisfied, you'd use the second one. What the first one is saying is that something was satisfactory and that made me satisfied. You see, there's a difference there, but the difference is really, really small, so you don't really have to worry about it. The key takeaway from all this is that sometimes verbs with surupta can end up conveying the same thing as if they didn't have surupta attached with it. Let's look at two quick examples using the adverb form of surupta. 너무 수롭게 보지 않았어요? Isn't he looking at her lovingly? Or too lovingly? 그는 실망스럽게 행동했어요. He acted disappointingly, or in a disappointing fashion. Alright, that's it for this lesson. I had a lot of difficulties coming up with examples for this lesson, to be honest. Every example I thought of either used grammar that we didn't learn or just had vocab that we didn't discuss yet. So what examples can you guys think of? Leave a comment with an example using what we learned. Also, don't forget to check out the other videos that go along with this lesson. Links are in the description below.